Hello and welcome to tonight's debate. I'm your host, Clive Staples Lewis. Today we're going to be listening to a presidential debate between the red team and the blue team to see which one of these is more Christian.
My fellow Americans, I want it to be known that I am here to represent the truth, righteousness, and justice. I am the top G presenting here and to stand firm with you against the evil, dirty poo-poo pants on the left, okay? He speaks lies and blasphemy, trying to tear down the world. He's not a true Christian. He speaks of nothing but death, saying that we are racist, but we understand. We know the truth. I walked into here already behind. I just want you to know and understand. Put God first. God bless America.
Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow Americans, I want it to be known tonight that my opponent on the red team is also a stinky poopy pants who wants innocent people to die. Do you understand me? He wants your mother to be killed. You think I'm joking? I'm not joking. I'm talking about your mother. He wants your mother dead. All right? And why is that? Because he is a racist. This man is a racist, okay? Do you understand me? Now, as a representative of the blue team, I would like to submit the rest of my time to the moderator for consideration. And cheerio, love. Now, we've heard some interesting arguments on both sides, and we have to recognize that each one of these is wrong, and neither one is particularly Christian. Okay, come on. Clearly this man has...
He's in their pockets.
The patriarchy has enveloped his psyche, all right? Let's... Moderator is unfair and unbalanced, all right? Okay, let's just say that.
God bless America.
A great moral teacher's job is to remind us of what we may not want to do but already know to be true. People need to be reminded far more than instructed, and this sentiment holds true of Jesus. The message of the gospel, do to others what you would want them to do to you, is something that we know inherently to be true but need to be reminded of. Now, the timelessness of this has an effect on how the gospel message is to be applied. It was never intended to put forth any political ideas because it was meant for people under all kinds of political systems throughout time. Scripture was never intended to replace or supersede the arts or sciences, political or otherwise. It is meant to direct them. It doesn't tell you to feed the poor and then provide a recipe book. It tells you to feed the poor, and how you do that is up to you and your circumstances. So, a big question. Should the church be in charge of society? Now, the answer to this depends on how you're defining the question. If what you mean by church is the entire body of believers, then the answer is yes. Economists should be in charge of the economy, and it's better if they were Christians. The same goes for politicians or scientists or movie directors, etc. If you mean that clergy should be leading society or speaking on matters of politics or culture, this would be a mistake. They are specialized in matters of an eternal nature and should stick to their expertise. This is a very different job from the one at hand. This job is better suited to laymen like us. The great cinematic masterpieces of our time were written by screenwriters and not by priests and bishops writing movies in their spare time. But that's not to say that the Gospels don't hint at what a Christian society might look like. We know, for example, that everybody should put in work as they are able. We know that there wouldn't be frivolous luxuries in the advertisements that push them in a Christian society. In C.S. Lewis's view, the economy would be focused on getting everybody's needs met. In this way, we get a sort of a left-leaning ideology. On the other hand, there would be the expectation of outward respect for those placed in authority, from the national all the way down to the family level. And this would give it a rightward tilt. It's to be a happy, cheerful, artful society where worry is avoided, courtesy is expected, and gossip is shunned. According to C.S. Lewis, if you found a society like this, you would notice that its economic policies are progressive and its society is conservative. It's a certainty that you probably wouldn't like a large portion of the things about the society. I know that I personally take some issues with the ideals presented here. As C.S. Lewis himself states that he was torn about omitting some things that his own politics disagreed with. But that's just the point. We all want to pick and choose the parts that we like. And that's how Christians can disagree so vehemently while claiming that they are championing the faith. Now, one interesting thing to consider is the fact that despite Scripture and 3 of the largest civilizations of all time stating that loans should never be given with interest, investments are the very bedrock of our whole society today. You may wonder if all of these people could never have foreseen the banking industry as it exists today. Perhaps they only had individual personal loans in mind, and that's a fair point. But it is at least worth bringing up and considering. Now, if you find yourself distracted at this point by how wrong C.S. Lewis's politics are, I have good news for you. It's time to bring it back down to the individual. Going back to the statement that people ought to work, we actually find that this statement has a follow-up qualifier. People ought to work so that they will have something to give. Charity is one of the foundations of Christian societal morality. Some people believe that we should have systems in place to eliminate poverty. And that may very well be true, but in the meantime, you are required to do whatever you can from your own wallet. And how much should you be giving? The brief answer is roughly too much. There should be things that you want to have or do that you cannot because you've stretched yourself too thin with charity. A good rule of thumb is that if you're living like everybody else in your income bracket, you're probably not giving enough. This truth becomes even more pressing when it's people in our own family or community that need help that God has forced into our view. These may require us to give much more, even to the crippling and endangering of our own situation. A couple of major blocks of charity that we have to recognize and overcome are fear and pride. The fear of insecurity is probably the biggest, and we have to learn to be comfortable with that reality. Pride can be a little bit more subtle. It can lead us to give more than we should in public ways and perhaps less than we should to people who truly need it. If you found yourself irritated with anything in this section, perhaps something that went a little bit too far, you probably have a counterpoint that's equally irritated for the exact opposite reason. It probably didn't go quite far enough. This is something that needs to be talked about. A lot of people develop ideas about the world and then look to Scripture to back them up, rather than going to Scripture to develop a point of view. A Christian society would not work unless everyone in it wanted it, and everyone in it would not properly want it without God working on them. And so we are brought right back to the very beginning. In order for any of this to work on a social level, God has to work on you at the individual level.
I hope you enjoyed this installment of What is Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. If you'd like to learn more about St. James or the Faith We Confess ministries, head over to thefaithweconfess.com and you can learn more about us there. If you'd like to learn more about St. James, you can head over to stjames-leesburg.org and just discover a little bit more about who we are. If you're interested in tuning in live to our services, we live stream every service on Sunday morning at 10:15 a.m. You can watch that on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. For more of the Faith We Confess content, feel free to head over to our YouTube channel and you can hit the subscribe button while you're there. And please feel free to reach out to us if you have any thoughts or comments on things that we can do or things that we have done. We appreciate you so much, and we'll see you in the next one.